In this video, we're going to talk about summarization and exactly how you would implement summarization to in different regards. So, by default, with iOS 15.x, so that's 15.1, 15.0, all of them, auto summary is now disabled by default when you go into turn EIGRP on. Where if you're doing it with 12.4 or prior to that, it was turned on by default. So you had to type in no auto summary in order to get EIGRP to advertise the summary and the prefix length. Now, that being said, the idea with the auto summary command is you might be tossed it as a bone, and as long as you understand the fact that the major subnet is what's actually going to be sent. So if it's the 10 network, it's going to be advertised as a 10/8. If it's a 172.16, it's going to be advertised as such. Now /12. Now if it's a 192.168, it's going to be advertised as /16. And so on and so forth. Well, depends on the situation. But because it's, I'm sorry, that'll be a /24. 172.16, that'll be advertised as /16. So, when it comes to that, knowing how that actually works, I mean, it's one command, literally. It's just one command. We're going to go to router 11. And if I wanted to implement auto summarization, I could go to global config, type in router EIGRP 1, and type in auto summary, and that's all I had to do. It would flip around, it would send a route refresh and a graceful restart. It would remove all the routes it's got and implement them as a summarized route, so with the classical range. That's all you have to do. So you might get tossed that, and it might be telling you that you're supposed to be getting routes in, but you're not. It could be a stub router that is hanging out in the corner. So like on, I guess the best way for me to demonstrate this would be on like 16. You might say routes from router 16 are not populating correctly, or the semantics of the CCIE lab. I've done a couple of full-scale labs, and the semantics the way they write the questions and they write the tasks, they make you think. Okay, and usually you should know what to pretty quickly. You might have to sit there going, and you might get 3 or 4 possible solutions. And then you have to determine which one of those is going to be the quickest. And depending on, you might be a static route, might be at, and based on there's usually a full lab do's and don'ts. So they might say, don't use static routing, don't use policy routing to solve any issues. Okay, well, if that was 2 of your answers, then those 2 answers are automatically out, and then you have maybe turning no auto summary on, and doing that and getting it implemented that way. So for the most part, it's pretty straightforward, but understanding what it exactly is that they're looking for is typically the most complicated part. So no auto summary is going to be one of those things. Now, during the break, which was, I took a little bit of a break between videos, and one of the things that I was talking to a friend of mine who knows that I'm doing this, and none of these videos have been uploaded yet. So if you're watching this, I've already made the decision on this. What I'm actually going to do is, once this is fully implemented, I'm going to break it. And I'm going to break it in a bunch of different places, and then I'm going to do a troubleshooting scenario off of that. And then we'll see how it goes from there. So that's pretty much my game plan for it. So basically, no auto summary, if we were to type this in on 16, so we'll type in config t, router EIGRP 1, address family IPv4A1, and we were type in it is under topology, right? Yeah, topology base. Under here is where you would type in auto summary, and you would type in auto summary, and then do that, and then they would resync, and then they're resynchronized. And if you were to do a do show IP route, you would see that they would be advertised as the classical range. So as you can see, we have nothing's being advertised outside of what it should be. And as you can see here, what is connected upstream? 21. So it has you'll see a graceful restart, which is what you're supposed to see, and then a do show IP route. And I have the 128 network in here. So if I was to go to 16, and I don't have any, I've got all but 10 routes, and that's why it's showing up the way that it is. So I have the major network, and then I have these guys in here. And so they're showing up as /32 because they're host routes. But if I was to go to 21, and I was to go type in interface loopback, 222, and type in IP address is going to be, 192.168.222.21/24, and I was to go down to 16 and do an up arrow and do a show IP route. Oh, actually, I got to go back to 21. I have to advertise it in. So router EIGRP 1, and then type in address family IPv4 A1 and autonomous system 1, and type in network and 192.168.0.0 222.0. That would be an acceptable network, and just hit enter. If I go to 16 now and do the up arrow, he's going to get that route in there, and it's going to be advertised as such. Now if I was to do on 21 and go up and type in no, and type in network and type in 192.168.0.0, it should still show up as what you see here. If I show IP route, it's not going to show up. Okay. And that's because I'm not advertising it correctly. And because of the fact that I didn't advertise it correctly, even though I've got it as the network, it's in the wrong, it's in not the classical range. So I'd have to type in the correct way. Type it in this way, R16 will be able to learn it in, and there you have it. So that's really all there is to it. So we're going to type in no auto. That'll take that problem away. And then I could go in and, let's say I have multiple 192.168 networks. So let's say we'll create, we'll do a network 192.168. Well, actually, let's hit the up arrow and get rid of this one. And we're going to type in network 192.168.0.0, 0.0.255.255. Hit that in. Now 16 is going to get that in. Right, he's going to receive that route in, and I'm going to also go on 21. I'm going to type in interface loopback 223. IP address is going to be 192.168.223.21. 24-bit mask, and do that. And I'm going to go to 16, hit the up arrow. I'm going to have that third route. Let's see, 21. Yeah, because what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to only pay attention to this part of it. Oh, right, that's the correct way to look at it. Network 192.168, so I should be able to go to 16 should be receiving it. Do clear IP route star. Why is it not coming through? So let's say do show. I turned auto summary off, right? Pipe section EIGRP. We should not be. It's advertising it in topology base. Yeah, there's nothing in topology base. It would, this is where auto summary would show up, and I don't see it bugging out. So why is it? Oh, I have the wrong information, that's why. So they're like, why is this not working? 168. Go to 16, and we're going to do show IP route. There they are. So now it's showing up, because of the fact that I've got the mask set up correctly, and that's how that would work. So that's looking at auto summarization. Next thing we'll take a look at is going to be auto summarization, or I'm sorry, manual summarization. So what I'm going to do in this example is I'm going to go over and I'm going to do, I'm going to split this up to where I'm going to do manual summarization is going to be manually summarizing a route to advertise down to here. So from 21 to 16. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be twofold with this. On this side, I'm going to do a summarization with the default route from 21 and 22. I'm going to advertise a default route from both routers down to this guy so that it'll have two default routes. And we'll see exactly how that would look. And then on the other side, we're going to advertise the default route. And in addition to that, that's going to be summarizing. What this is actually going to do is it's going to limit the query scope. So 18 is going to advertise a default route in to these guys. These guys are all going to learn it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to advertise a summary route this way and a summary route this way with a leak map. And what a leak map is going to do is it's going to allow us to advertise a summary route, so like say a /16. In addition to that, we're going to be able to advertise more specific routes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over on this side, and on 21, we're going to get on 21 and we're going to go to router EIGRP 1 and address family IPv4 autonomous system 1 AF interface is going to be gig 1/0, and what we're going to type in is summary address. We could type that in, or we could type in default summary address, and then we would type in what we want. So we could do a 0/0, so that would work 0.0.0.0/0, and we could say a leak map in a default route. So you could do a leak map with the default route too if you want to. We're just going to do that. And that's going to do that. So we're going to go to 16, and we're going to jump out of here and do a show IP route. And now we should have a default route, and that's going to remove all these guys. And we advertise the default route. There's no reason to have longer matches. So on 22, though, we're going to do something a little similar. We're going to go to this guy. We're going to type in router EIGRP 1. So address family IPv4. And we type in the default default network. The default network here, what this is going to do is when you do this, it has to be classful boundary, so like a 10 network, and you have to have it has to be indirect. So I'm trying to remember exactly how that works. Default network, and then you would specify the network number, which is going to be, in our case, is going to be 0.0.0.0, and then 255.255.255.255, and enter. Now I'm not sure if that's actually going to work, because I haven't worked with the default that one in quite some time. But there's that way. There's that option to use, or we can do. I'm trying to think what the best default network. Let me do this. Okay, so I guess the default network command is not covered by that anymore, but I believe the way that this worked is you would do it up one hop upstream of where you're supposed to, and you would say default network, and it's got to be a classful range. But the way that we do this underneath the address family, we'd go under topology base and hit enter, and then this is where you type in default information. I'm not sure if this version is going to support it. Yeah, default information, that's why it's not showing up. I'm sitting there, I'm looking at it, like, where's default? Yeah, it's sitting right there. Default information, and you'd say out. So accept output default routing information. So this is going to be, we want to do this on 16. So in, we're gonna go to, we're gonna pop over on 16, and it doesn't allow you to. Let's see here. I'm trying to remember exactly how that works, and I don't quite remember off the top of my head how it works. So, except output. We'll say output for the time being, and you can specify an access list or something like that you want to call. We'll just say out, and then 16. Does it learn a secondary? It doesn't. So let's go on 22. What we're going to do is we're also going to do a. I'm going to type in IP route, and I'm going to say 0.0.0.0, 0.0.0.0, and the next hop is going to be. It's going to be the 142. So 142 is going to be 142.0.0.14. And I'm going to type now is I'm going to go back to router EIGRP 1, and then address family IPv4 1, and then topology base. I'll type in redistribute static, and then I'm going to add a metric to it of say, or I'm sorry, not a metric, but I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to go to 16, and yeah, it doesn't seem to be making any difference. So in 21, what did I do here? I did a summary address. So let me pull that summary address. Let me do no summary address. And then go to 22, and then we're going to do on 16. We should be receiving a we're receiving an external route from this guy. But you see, and again, it comes back to the what's preferred. The summary address at the interface level was more preferred than the global process redistribute static. So if we go back to 21, and we type in summary address, that's going to kick off the resync. We go back to 16, and we do the up arrow, show IP route. We're going to be receiving in the route from 21, but we're also going to be receiving in the route from 22, the loopback. So as you can see, it's more preferred at the interface level. Now if we were to go to 21 and say no summary address, and type in router EIGRP1, and type in, actually let's exit out of here once and go IP route, and do the same thing. We're going to type in 0.0.0.0, 0.0.0.0, I know it's a lot of zeros. And then we're going to type in, that's going to be 128.0.0.0.28, and we're going to type in router EIGRP1, address family IPv4 A1, and then topology base, and type in redistribute static, and then we're going to go to 16. My guess is we're going to have 2 in there, and we do. And the way that this works is we have all of our routes in here, but we're receiving 2 different global routes. So if we wanted to reach anywhere, so we're going to do a trace route to 8.8.8.8, we're going to use both router 21 and 22 to get out. So it doesn't know what to do with it from there, but it's a default route, and that's how you can advertise one. But if they say in the exam prefer one more than the other, you could go in there and add a, like for instance on 21, you could say end config t, and then do the IP route thing, and you could say add a metric to it. So you could say you want to make this distance a bit a bit better, or something like that. I mean, you can get kind of we'll say metric of 2, and then we'll go to 16, and we'll do a show IP route, and now that route should be taken out as soon as the route is. Let's do a clear IP route star, because now it's got a higher metric, or a higher administrative distance. Or you know what, it's got to be higher than 170, because 170 is our AD. So on 21 we have to type in an AD of 171, and then we'll go to 16 now. 16 will receive that in, and then it'll pull that out because it's got a higher AD than the other route. So then the same thing would be on 21 if we were to type in, say, 169, and then go to 16 again, and then do the up arrow, and now it's going to be to 22, and then it should eventually, well, maybe that might not work. So, okay. But we have 2 different ways of getting off the network. This would be almost the same thing of having HSRP, to where if one went down, we'd have the other one there. This is like poor man's HSRP, if you will, but that's one way to do it. So that's a way to do default routing and stuff like that. Now, if you wanted to take it a step farther and do it with a league map, you can do it with league map. So on 21, if we were to go to router EIGRP1 and type in address family IPv4 A1, and then type in AF interface is going to be gig 1/0. Type in summary address, and then we were to type in some arbitrary number, say 10.1.1.1.0 0.0.0.255, or no, I'm sorry. Type of leak map. What the leak map will allow you to do, like I mentioned on the other side, on over here, is that the leak map is going to allow you to allow dynamic prefixes based on the leak map, so you're going to be able to advertise longer matches. So you could say, let's say for instance, they tell you in the exam on R21 to advertise a default route to 16. Make sure that R21 is the default gateway for this route. And you'd be like, okay, well, how do I do that? I mean, you could do a static route, but static route's not allowed. So you could go in and create a leak map and or a prefix list, call it to a route map, and then I think a leak map is actually it's a prefix list. So you could set up a prefix list, I believe is what it is, and then you would go in there and you would advertise that in addition to the default route, and this way here it would go this way. So it'd be more specific. And remember, the longer the match, the better. So that's one of the things we'll take a look at. But that's one thing you could do, is you could do a default route and a leak map. It's actually, I jumped a little bit ahead. Default routing is, actually no, it's not. Default routing is here, but they have the option of doing that with query scoping or summarization, so you can send a summary route. Basically what I'm doing is I'm showing you summarization with the leak map. It's basically the same thing. But the default information originate, if we were to type in exit out of here and type in topology base and hit enter, and then type in default dash information out, and then you could specify an access list name. So you could go in there and actually advertise a longer match. In that regard, that would be kind of the same thing with summarization with the default route, and then advertising a longer match. It's one thing you could do, but that just gives you some flexibility within your network to get everything operational. And then what we're going to do on the remote end is we're going to do summarization with leak map. So on 18, we're going to do this. We're going to say we're going to do let me cover summary metric real quick. Router EIGRP1, address family IPv4 A1, and then we're going to type and we're going to do is topology base, and if you look under there at the bottom, it says summary metric. You can specify what the static metric. What this means is anything that's summarized in summary to configure static metric. So we'll say 0.0.0.0, and then the network mask is going to be, well, we'll say, I think it's going to be all 255s. You know what? 0. No, I'm wrong. 0, or we could do /0. /0, and then we could say the distance or the metric. So the metric would come into play. We could specify the metric we want to advertise it with, and then that could be that's where you get into the summary metric. That's how that would work. So you could say or set the administrative distance. I think you can do distance and the metric. So 10, and then the no, it's not. It's going to be the bandwidth of metric. So we'll say, and then 2, and then 255, and then 1, and 1500, and then the distance. You could do that. That's a valid configuration. And then what the way that would do is, we're going to go to router 20, and then we're going to do a do show IP route, and we are going to be getting in a if we were to hold on. Let me come back to that one. I'm not exactly sure why that's not what the deal with that one is. When you get into the multi-AF mode, sometimes things get a little bit different in configuration. So let me come back to that one. I'm not exactly sure why that's doing what it's doing. But What I'm going to do is, let me go back to R18, and then I'm going to do Control A and type in no. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and to exit out of here, and AF interface is going to be gig or fast 2/1. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in summary address, and I'm going to type in is going to be a default route, and then the leak map is going to be we're going to say is going to be leak, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to advertise a longer match to google.com. So we're going to say 8.8.8 quad 8/32. So leak map, and then we're going to hit enter, and then we're going to go to router. It resynchronizes that one, so R20 should get one. So now we have this default route coming in, right? And then what we're going to do is on R18, we're going to end and go to global config. It's just easier to do that sometimes. I'm going to type in IP prefix list, and we're going to say what we're going to is going to be Google, and we're going to say permit, and then the information. So it's going to be 8.8.8.8/32, and then we're going to type in route dash map, and we're going to say leak, and hit enter, and we're going to say match IP address in prefix list Google, and hit enter. And then what we're going to do is we're going to jump out of here. We're going to do a show IP route, and as you can see, we're advertising this from us, so it's a null zero route to us. So if we try to route anything out, we're going to be going nowhere fast because we defaulted it. So anytime you set a summary address, it's going to be null route it. But if we were to do show IP route and go to router 20, we should see a or not. Let us take a look at the config. This guy. So we're going to jump down here to EIGRP. I don't see it sitting in here. Leak map. What is that config again? I forgot. So we're going to type in, over on here, I've got the find open. I'm going to type in leak, and it found it. So let's see, find next. IP prefix list. Route map that calls the prefix list, and leak map tacked on the end of the summary address. So that's what I did. So this is what you would do, is you would type in IP summary address EIGRP. This would be at the interface level, and this is where we did it on this guy. We went to 18, and we did it at the AF interface level. Right. Yep, we typed in summary address. So we did that, and then we typed in leak map leak. And then we called a prefix list. Right here, we created the prefix list. We typed in Google. Oh, you know what? Haha. What I didn't do is I didn't create a route called IP route to 0.0.0.0 0.0.0.0 8.8.8.8. No, that's not what I want to do. We'll see if that makes any difference. 20, we're going to hit the up arrow. Yeah, that should be popping in addition to this. There should be an 8 route in here, but there's not. But for whatever reason, it's not showing up in this. This is what the command reference isn't always the greatest to use, For whatever reason, it doesn't show up. But perplexed. Let us do this. Let's go to config t, or let's do no IP route to that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to advertise it in. I'm going to create a interface loopback 8888, and I'll type in IP address is going to be 8.8.8.8, and I would not recommend doing this in production. The reason I wouldn't recommend doing this in production is I know a lot of companies that uses Google DNS, and that's what the Google DNS address is. And so we're going to type in router EIGRP 1 or 3, and we're going to type in address family IPv4 A1, and then we're going to type in network, and we're going to say 8.8.8.8, and then we're going to go to 20. Alright, so if you see this right here encompasses, that is why we're advertising it the way we are. So if we were to go to R18 and turn, if we were to do no control now, I wonder if that would have any effect on it. Yeah, see, by us advertising it into, by us advertising it, it shows up twice. So we have this 8.0/32, and it comes in as such, and then we have this Google route there. So now it's being it's not being null routed on our side. But if we were to, like, if it was being redistributed, it's a longer match. It's being advertised with our summary because we've advertised it. So, and kind of get away with it. I mean, it's not a best practice to do it that way. But if you had routes you needed to get out, then that'd be one way to handle it. So, but that's summary metric, summarization with a leak map, and default routing, and manual summarization and auto summarization. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show you guys. Not a ton of detail. And then we're going to take a look at convergence next. And then we'll take a look at filtering after that. And then it's going to be just some minor stuff like the default network. We've talked about that. Not a big deal. Some of these other specifics that are in here that are not really corner case scenarios, but it's still important to know what they are, like maximum hops. Actually, I've already shown you that. Or no, I didn't. I showed you maximum paths. So we're going to take a look at convergence and see exactly how that would work. We cannot do IP fast reroute because we're not running that code, but I can show you what the config would look like and where it would be sitting if we were to do it. So, as a matter of fact, if we were to exit out of here and type in, I think it'd be sitting right here, if I remember correctly. Or is it be topology base? Yeah, it'd be somewhere in here. So let's take a look at the command reference. Oh. Command reference. So IP fast reroute. Yeah, it would be underneath the topology, so I'm under the right place. So let me pull up my CSR device and pull this over, and let me get it. Let me do this real quick and bring this guy over for you so you guys can see this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this over, hit enter. Let me bring this up just a little bit so you guys can see it. Alright, so we're going to type in enable config t router EIGRP CCIE address family IPv4 A1, and then topology base. For to do this, it would be IP fast reroute, which the fast reroute is right there. Fast reroute would be there, and then we'd have the different options to go through there. But as I said, there's nothing really there to worry about. It just allows you to what basically this would do. And let me kind of give you the idea. So if you were to have IP fast reroute configured, what this would do is on R11. So let's go to R11. Is if we were to do a show IP route for 10.100.18.18. Beg your pardon? Show IP route. Do I have a default route? I do. Let's go to 18 and pull that off. So AF interface gig or fast2/1. Go back to 11. There it is, and do a show IP route to that. There we go. What you would see here is you would actually see one line underneath this one and this one. It would show a repair path, and what that repair path would mean is if this link right here went down for whatever reason, it got nixed, unplugged, whatever, then it would automatically fail over to this guy. So it's almost an enhancement to feasible successors, and it does work out real well, but if you have it configured correctly. And unfortunately, this version of code doesn't support it. So I could flip over to the service provider train, but I really don't see the reason for it. But that just gives you that's just how that would work. So I figured I'd just cover that real quick and show you guys what that would look like real quick to see what that would look like. So that's summarization in a nutshell. I hope this has been informative for you, and I would like to thank you for viewing.